also the National Directress of the Vanguard of the NGT GCC class, the Women's Training Class of the Nation of Islam, and she will introduce Minister Farrakhan. So we want you to give very special attention to the words that she's about to present to you, and sit back and relax, because in a very few moments, the man that we've all come to hear will be here to speak to us as women. So please help me to welcome Sister Minister Donna Farrakhan.
Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. I bear witness to Moses and the Torah, and yes, I bear witness to Jesus and the gospel. In their holy and righteous names, I would like to once again greet you with the nation's greetings of peace and paradise of Assalamu Alaikum. It is beautiful to see all of you out this evening to receive a special message from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Some of you know him personally, and some of you are beginning to know him better. The man that we have been waiting for is now in our midst. We need not delay his message, not 1 second and not one more moment. But because what he has to say to us, beloved sisters, is vital for our survival. He has been a servant to us. He has been a brother to us. He has been an uncle to us. He has been a friend to us. He has been a father to us. And yes, he is a leader to us today in the present. He is our champion. And they are afraid of this dynamic man. Why do you fear him? He's never stolen from you. He never took your woman from you. He never robbed a bank. But he's been an example for black women and men all over the world. Why do you pick on a man from God when he is trying to raise his people from the dead? You have created this mess for him to fix. And I say to you, get out of the way way and let him fix it. I bring before to you the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, we thank Almighty God for blessing us with His prophets and their scriptures. We thank Him for Moses and the Torah. We thank Him for Jesus and the gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of God. If I lived to be 1,000, I don't think I could be grateful enough for God's intervention in our affairs, in His coming in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever, and raising up in our midst His messenger to us, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a man who has taught me what I am about to share with you, and a man who gave me the example of what a man should be. So in their names, I'm very happy and honored to greet all of you with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, As-salam alaikum. To Sister Shirley Muhammad, leader of the women's class of Muhammad's Mosque. To my wife, who is present, and my daughters and my sisters. I am very, very happy to be here in Boston with you. So many wonderful women in this city had a part in raising me and making me the kind of man that I am hoping to become. My mother was a very strong woman, and many of the women who had a hand in disciplining me and trying to make me right are in the city of Boston. And I am very grateful to Almighty God for the privilege of standing before you. Thank you so much for your attendance. Thank the police chief or commissioner for the police escort that has taken me through the streets of Boston. Thank you to the pastor of this great house who has permitted us the privilege of being here. And of course, a very special thank you to all of those who spoke before me, who in their way gave testimony to the greatness of women. I too have come to you tonight to talk to you about your greatness. The black woman in particular, and women in general. I'm very sorry that you will have to give my voice a chance to open up, because I've been speaking so much. I've been speaking so much these past few weeks. I just came off of a plane from Africa and immediately went into a speaking tour, and I don't think I've quite conquered the jet lag. But in just a few minutes, the voice will sort of warm up. And I think you'll be able to hear me if you bear with me till it wakes up. But my dear sisters, this world is in trouble because this world has not respected women. This world is going down because it has failed to lift women up. For no nation can rise any higher than its women. Listen, the standard by which we measure the civilization of a people is not the man. The standard by which we measure the civilization of a people is seen in the woman. When you have women that are uncultivated, underdeveloped, you have an uncultivated, underdeveloped people and nation. When you have women that are cultivated and developed, you have a developed nation. Because when you teach a man, you only teach an individual. But when you teach a woman, you teach a family, you teach a nation. So to say to women that you should not be not only well educated, but you should have the best education that it is possible for a human being to get. To say to you that you don't need to be well educated is to say that we will not have a well educated nation. For you are the first teacher of our nation. You are the first nurse of our nation. You are the first doctor of our nation. And if you don't give our people a good beginning, we have no beginning. The question is, who will give you a good beginning? Because as women, black women in particular, you're filled with pain and filled with hurt because your lives are unfulfilled in the men that you have chosen. It is not that the man that you chose is a bad man. Every man that you have chosen or that you have given birth to has tremendous potential. But you may not know how to nurture that potential because you were never taught properly how to rear your children. A man is a delicate creature more than he is willing to admit, and he needs care. And our women have never been properly taught how to care for the man that you love. You want to do by him, but wanting to do and knowing how to do is a totally different thing. You cannot bring out of yourself what God has put within you because the man is so inferior to what God intended for man to be that he cannot inspire you to bring forth from yourself what God has created within you. I want to talk to you tonight about your nature. The nature of a woman needs to be understood specifically by women. You know something about yourself, but you don't know your root. And until you know your root, you'll never understand the branch, and you won't appreciate the fruit that comes from you. Who are you, beloved black woman? Who are you, women? Women are not the women of man. Woman is the woman of God. Listen, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that before there was sun, before there was moon, before there were stars, you were. He said God's first act of creation after creating himself, coming out of total darkness, was to create something from himself that would be a consoler and a comfort for himself. So from himself, he created you. I want to say that again. Not from some rib, preacher. No. I want to try to give you some understanding of the Genesis so you will never think that God put man to sleep and caved in his rib and then made you from a rib, which is something on the side of a man, which makes you less than life, because the rib is bone, and bone is the stone of the body and the stone of the earth. And to say that women are like inanimate things or hard, unyielding, is to misunderstand, and through that false interpretation of Scripture, abuse you as less than who and what you really are. To make you the temptress that caused Adam to fall is to put on you a heavy burden and put on you some heavy baggage that you don't deserve. There is no woman that can make a man fall if that man does not want to fall. In fact, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me that there's no such thing as a no good woman. Now listen, there is no such thing as a no good woman. Every woman that you see that's no good was made no good by a no good man. And you know that that's right. Because the nature of you as women is to honor man and to love man and to respect man. And the first man in your life generally would be your father. If he's a good father, you love him, you honor him, you respect him. But if he's a no good father, he will abuse his daughter and put her on a path of destruction because he didn't understand the beauty of her love. He didn't understand the unconditional love that his own daughter had for her father. And so he broke into that love and abused his child and set her on a path that she couldn't trust men anymore. When you meet a man and fall in love, you offer yourself to that man, and you become like clay, and he becomes like the potter. And whatever he is, he starts shaping you after the love that you have for him. You submit to him, and he begins to shape you. And if you have no individual strength, if you are weak, then whatever he is what he ultimately makes of you. This is why it is better for a woman to be by herself than to be with a man that is no good. Now let's get back to God, and I'll get to the rib in a minute. The Holy Quran says of the woman that she is the natural consoler of the man. You call your television a console when you have your entertainment section there. But there is no consolation for a man greater than what he can find in a woman. However, it's one thing to know that iron ore is in the earth. It's another thing to mine it out of the earth and put it into the service of self. It's one thing to know what God has put in a woman, but it's another thing entirely to be able to extract it from the woman. And the only way a man can extract what God has put within a woman, he has to be a man of God. Listen. The greatest woman that ever lived, according to the Bible and the Quran, was a woman named Mary. And in the Quran, the angels came to Mary, telling Mary the good news of a son that she was going to give birth to. And her words to the angel was, "How can I give birth when I have never been unchaste?" And the angel answered, speaking on behalf of God, "It is easy for God. All he has to say is be, and it is." And the scriptures of the Quran say that we sent Mary our spirit. Listen to the words. We sent Mary our spirit, and it appeared unto her in the form of a well-made man. By nature, sister, you cannot resist a man in whom the Spirit of God dwells. Your problem is you look too much on the outside and too little on the inside. Your problem is we have allowed the men of this world to degrade women and reduce you to a piece of meat, where you begin to think of yourself in terms of your measurements. 36, 23, 36. And then when you think your form is beautiful, you let the freakish designers of the world design clothing for you that manifests the beauty of your form. God made you, and he made you right. He made you in such a way that you are appealing to a natural man. And it's very difficult for you to disrobe or uncover in the face of a natural man and he not act naturally. So the freakish designers who design with sex titillation in mind uncover the beauty of your form. This is the way they style the clothes. You're not the stylist. You go and pick them out. You sometimes don't even realize the science being used by the designers in styling your clothes. They will make a dress for you that is very short, tight in the waist, revealing of the hips and the bust line. When you sit down, the beauty of your thighs is what his eyes behold. You may say, oh, this is not what I expected Farrakhan to say. But sisters, if you listen, no man can think sanely looking at your thighs. And it's a fact. They have designed your clothes where they have put now on your coats buttons that come right across the buttocks. And men's eyes follow moving objects. So as you walk down the street and the object is moving, that poor man can't help himself. Now they have see-through clothes where you just have on underwear. And you go and you put this on. You say, well, I like it. And I can't help it if the man ain't got no strength. But you can help it because he's never going to be a decent man until you become a decent woman. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us that where there are no decent women, there are no decent men, for the woman is the nurturer, the mother of civilization. When a man can look at you through a see-through dress, what do you think he's thinking? You know what he's thinking, don't you? And when a man sees you in the light of a piece of meat, then he starts coming up to you like a snake that came up to Eve in the garden. Only you know what he's up for because you've led him in that direction. He may ask you, hey baby, what's your name? But he ain't after your name. And then he gets to the bottom line. And you may either yield or not yield, but you've put yourself in a vulnerable position and you've made him to act out the lower part of his own nature. If you want the man to act on a higher level, you have to help him get there. Listen, since you came directly from God, you are just a little less than God, but you have tremendous power. Tremendous power. If there is no God, then woman would easily be worshipped as a god. You didn't hear me. You are the female side of God. Oh, sisters. The Bible teaches, Reverend, in the book of Genesis, and God made man in his own image and after his own likeness. And if you go back and read in the 5th chapter of Genesis, it says male and female. female created he them and called their name Adam. So the Adam that's made in the image and likeness of God is not just biological man, but it's man and woman, because the man can't go nowhere without the woman, and the woman cannot go anywhere without the man. We are created interdependent on each other. Now, why then is there so much trouble between male and female? Why are you as a woman so unfulfilled? Why are your children, instead of bringing you joy, bringing you tremendous pain and suffering? You need to understand what is happening to you, and through you, what is happening to our nation, our people, and the world. In the Genesis, God says to the man, I'm going to give you power and dominion over the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, and every creeping thing that crawls upon the earth. Man is by nature a creature that must have power in order to have dominion. The thing that's wrong with the black man is white America, white society has stripped the man of what God intended for a man to have. A man is not a man without the power to direct his own existence. A man is not a man because he has a biological instrument that says he is a male. But in order to be a man, God has to breathe into that man the breath of life. Not just oxygen, but the breath of life is inspiration. The breath of life is the Word of God. The breath of life is wisdom. And when a man inhales the wisdom of God and becomes a man after the likeness of God, then he has the wisdom to comfort, to guide his wife and his family. Listen now. God created you to help the man as a helpmeet. Isn't that what the book says? Help meet, not mate. Help meet. Help the man meet what? Help him meet the challenge that God has put on man and woman. What is the challenge? Multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. This don't mean just have a lot of babies. It means take the gift that is within you and multiply it by what you see in the universe and produce a product. Man by nature is a producer. And when a man is not producing, his soul is not satisfied. And when your man is not productive, you cannot help a man to do nothing. Are you listening? When you meet the brother, he's handsome. You say, Lord, ain't he sharp? Oh, honey, he's too cool. But no matter how handsome he looks, handsome starts looking ugly when he's unproductive. man to be laying around your house while you are out at work. He's looking at soap operas, keeping you up to date. At what's going on at the General Hospital with all our children. And he's sitting in the house as the world turns. Waiting for you to come home with the money because he's no guiding light. And you so hard up for a man that you spoil him and try to buy him. So you taking care of him. So he's not really your man. He's your child. And not meaning to be vulgar, but the common word in the male vocabulary is MF. Because you his mother. Because he has never been nurtured properly to be a man. So when he marries you, he's got another mother. And you looking for a husband. And you found your first son. But every one of these wonderful brothers of mine have the potential to be great. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. Satan has come in our house and divided the house against itself. And a house divided against itself cannot stand. The man has been stripped of real power because the enemy did not want your man to be wise. Real power is not in big muscles. Real power is in a highly developed intelligence. The veil of ignorance is over the head of the black man. So when you dumb him, then you strip him of the power to become productive, where he can dream dreams, but he can never make the dreams reality. So he's filled with frustration. And you don't know how to console a man in that condition. You don't even know what's wrong with him. You know something is wrong. So when you discover his weakness, instead of learning how to nurture his weakness till it gets strong, you cut him. Because you're disappointed in him. So your mouth becomes a sword. And you cut him down. And when you cut him down, especially a woman that he loves, he can't handle it because his ego is so fragile. Because the world has already beaten him down. And if he can't even look good in the presence of the woman that he loves, she's cutting him down. Then before long you see him retreat from the house. And you see him standing on the corner. Then you see him taking in drugs. Then the hand that used to be straight gets crooked. And he thinks you the cause of his behavior. When in reality, you don't understand, he doesn't understand what the real nature of us is. Look at you. When you love a man, ain't nothing you won't do to make him happy. Oh, I know women's liberation, you want to be professional women, I understand. You are wonderful doctors, wonderful nurses, wonderful scholars, wonderful scientists, wonderful business women. You can do anything that God has given you the gift to do, and you should be free to do it all. But sisters, you're just not going to be happy until there's some happiness in your home. And from that home, you branch out into your profession. But if your stuff ain't right at home, your professional life can't give you what a good home life will give you. No matter what your profession is, it can't satisfy your soul like a good loving man. Talk to me. Oh, that's true. When you got a good man, you got to know what to do for him. You want to do for him, you don't know what to do. You don't ever sit a good man down to one of these meals that you pop in an oven. Baby, I'm busy. You let somebody whose kitchen you don't know nothing about cook for you and your children. See, Grandma never did that. Grandpa, when he was coming up the walkway, he could smell the bread in the oven. Grandpa could smell the food cooking. He was happy to come home. Oh, no good man want to come home to some pop-up meal. Sisters, one of the first things that Elijah Muhammad did when we became his followers, he emptied out the medicine cabinet. He made us throw out all prescription pills. And he told us that the real medicine cabinet of the house is the kitchen. When you know what to do with the chemistry of food, then you know how to give your husband what he needs when he's getting a little weak, his blood is down, he got sugar. You can cure all of that in the kitchen if you know what you're doing. You're the doctor in your house. You're the nurse in your house. Yes. But of course, man couldn't expect too much more because man has not been what he ought to be. And so, my dear sisters, even though you want to do all these good things, your spirit is not there to do it. You're very hurt. You've produced beautiful children, but sometimes they have different fathers. And each one of these men who have given you a child, you can very rarely look to any of them to support their own offspring. When we were in slavery, you were the thing that men used like a stud horse. He would come in slavery because he couldn't marry you in slavery and just make you pregnant and go on back to where he lived, and you would produce a child that would grow up to be a slave. He didn't have to take care of the baby. The slave master did. And when you do that for 300 years to a people, you set a pattern. And so the man fills you with the seed of life and then treats you worse than animals treat their females. He runs off and leaves you. He really doesn't understand what you do for him. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us that the pain of birth is equal to the pain of death. When somebody dies, when the body shuts down, it's very painful. And that's why the Christians sing a song, I want to die easy when I die, because dying ain't easy. And giving birth is not easy. And when you lay down, mother, and those pangs hit you, and you cry out, and there's nobody to help you but God, you die that he and you may see your image again going on in the future. So in the condition that we're in, God needs to help us, because the society has destroyed us. And Reverend, the church does not know how to rebuild black people. The schools don't know how to rebuild black people. The society has destroyed us, and there is nothing to rebuild us. Churches on every corner, schools in every neighborhood. But in between the church and the school, there's a bar, there's a drug house, there's our young girls selling themselves to foolish men. There's hustling black men who live off the flesh of their own people. The church has so degenerated in the eyes of the wicked, degenerated in the pulpit. Men have lost respect for religion, respect for God, and the black man out there sees the preacher as a pimp hustling women. You know it's right. The enemy of our people purposely planned our destruction. Please listen. He purposely plans today the destruction of our people. Don't you know, sisters, that your man is the wall of your protection? And when that wall is broken down, you become the prize of a conqueror. When they brought our fathers into slavery, they conquered the black male. So in conquering the black male, you became the prize in that war. And do you know what the prize is called? It's called booty. Booty is the spoils of war. The enemy destroyed your wall of protection in your man. Then you became the booty. You became pleasure for the enemy. He would take us in the south, come up to the father's house and say, send your daughter out. This happened in Mississippi. This happened in Alabama and Georgia and Louisiana and Texas and Florida. Send her out. Fine looking young black girl, budding. She had to be sent out to the sheriff so he could despoil and deflower her and come back home and look at her father and wonder, what kind of man is this? That he's so afraid of the enemy that he would send his own daughter out to be used and abused by the enemy. And now our men can get on television and in records, shake your booty, shake your booty. And before some of our little children learn how to talk, they learn how to shake. You sitting up in front of MTV, looking at the filth and foolishness in these videos. Come on, girl, dance. And her fine little self, you can see her as a baby that she's going to be a beautiful thing, but you dress her up with little short things on. And men looking at her, you don't understand the sickness and the disease in men's minds. Some of you who have growing daughters, you go out and find you a man, and you bring that man in your house, and you are not concerned as a protector for the virtue of your young girls, and you bring that man in, and he's holding on to you, looking over your shoulder at your daughter. Satan has become so busy pumping up the meat with hormones to get it to the market faster, poisoning the meat so that you send your children out to eat at Wendy's, eat at Burger King, eat at McDonald's. And when the little girl is 9 years old, she got breasts bigger than her mother. She got a Barbie doll in one hand and a sanitary napkin in the other. And since you gotta work, your daughter is out there coming from school, and wild, crazy men, young and old, looking at that finely developed young lady. And you wonder why the children today are having babies before they can get mature enough to handle it. It's because the sex drive in the male and female is being fed by a steady diet of filth that is coming over the radio, over the TV, in the newspapers, in the magazines. What are our politicians, our leaders doing about it? Nothing. So you're left out here, sisters. You are very unprotected, very disrespected, totally out of control. You don't want nothing to control you, but you know you need to be controlled. You don't like that. But let me tell you something. The Holy Quran teaches that woman is a covering for man and man is a covering for woman. We cover each other's nakedness by our union and our unity. But when we are divided against self, you are uncovered and we are uncovered. We don't have anything to tell us when we're gone wrong to bring us in line. And you don't have nobody to tell you when you're going wrong and bring you in line. And today you're so grown, but yet you're minuscule in your intellectual development. Don't nobody tell me what to do. I'm grown. No, you're not grown. You're very ungrown. Your behavior is the behavior of female children, not mature adult women. Because when you are a mature woman, you understand your role and your connection to God. And without a connection to God, you are lost as a woman. And without a connection to God, we are lost as men. Listen, sisters. Y'all all right? This world has destroyed us and now is planning the destruction of us as an entire people. Some people say to Farrakhan, you shouldn't speak of conspiracy theories. You sound paranoid. But any of you who read scripture, and I have a good pastor behind me who will tell me if I misquote, but according to the scriptures, in the time of Moses, Pharaoh saw the children of Israel multiplying. And when Pharaoh saw the children of Israel multiplying, according to the Bible, he said these words, "Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and join on to an enemy of ours and come against us." When you use the words, "Come, let us deal wisely with them," that is a conspiracy. It's a group of people coming together at the top level of government to hatch a plan of destruction against an entire people. What was their plan? It says, kill the boy babies and spare the female. Kill the male children, spare the female children. Why are you doing that, Pharaoh? Because it's time for the deliverer. And if we kill all the male children, we'll be sure to kill the deliverer, so the children of Israel will be mine forever through their women. Listen. When a woman loves a man, she makes her children to love that man. When the Caucasian male broke the black man, where the black man is not able to suffice you, here comes the slave master's son. He produces the jobs, but he's not giving them to your husband. He's giving the job to you. So you are working and your man can't find a job. And since he doesn't know how to create a job, he's being broken down ego-wise every day that he sees you bringing home money, and he gotta ask you for car fare. Look at our women downtown in the offices of our former slave masters. You got your briefcase. You got your fine suit on. And early in the morning, we see you trucking on downtown. Where's your husband? He's home. He's in the street. And when you get in the office, your man is so cantankerous because he has an ego need that's not met. So he's oftentimes very edgy, ugly acting. And you say, I don't know what's wrong with that man. I'm just getting sick of you. Then he don't have any wisdom to guide you. So when he said, look, I want you home here. You tell me when to come here. I'm the one bringing that money in here, baby, unless you forgot. So while I'm gone, you make the bed, you wash the dishes, and put some food on for me when I get home. Now you chumping that man. So finally, the only thing the man can do to show you he's supposed to be the boss is beat you down. And practically every one of you is a victim of some man beating you up. No man is a man that gotta beat a woman. When I thought I was becoming a man, that's the first time I ever hit my wife. And that was the last time I hit my wife. Sisters, in truth, I hit her. She hit me back. And my daughters are here, and my son's somewhere in the back, but they'll tell you, they hardly ever hear me argue with my wife. They have never heard their mother call me out of my name and disrespect me in their presence. And she will tell me what I need to hear. But they don't hear it. My children have never seen their father strike their mother. Never. 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 And if they live to be 100, they'll never see their father strike their mother. Next to my mother, this is the woman that made me the man that I am. A man can't be a man today without a woman to help him. But you got to be taught how to help him. Y'all all right? Are you the victims of abuse? Do these men beat? Well, some of you beat them now. And if you can't beat them while they're awake, you wait till they sleep, huh? But sisters, imagine what kind of trauma that gives the little children to see their mothers and fathers fighting and beating and cussing each other. It is devastating to a child to see and hear that. It is devastating to a young boy to see his mother bring a strange man in the house and go in a room and have sex, and that boy is outside listening to his mother and a strange man. You don't know what you're doing to your child. This government sees that this is the time of the rise of our people. They're frightened. Birth control is not for white people. Birth control was designed for you, because you are the producer of all these beautiful babies. And those in power have become frightened because the white population is decreasing, in that they have reached a point that is considered zero population growth, meaning that for every one that dies, one is born, or when one is born, one dies. So their population is not expanding as yours is. And if you notice, white folk are getting older and grayer. Listen, they have a larger, older population and a smaller, ratio-wise, youth population. You got a stronger youth population, and your young men are the natural workers and warriors. But there's no jobs for them. And now that the Soviet Union has collapsed, they don't need them in the army. So what are we going to do with these young black men? Now you send your children to the public schools. I went to the public schools, but I must tell you, I got a very good education. But I think, as I can recall, my mother was so strong, a black woman, till she made sure that what they put in me in the day, she rectified it at night when I came home. You have to monitor what your children are being taught. Because, dear mothers, when you look at these precious little babies that you're producing, their minds are so sharp today. They make what we were when we were children look like we are standing still. Some of our babies right now are so smart. They've never been inside a school, but they manipulate grown people. And all the psychology that you learned in college don't work on these quick thinking, fast moving little babies. So if you're not up to date mentally and spiritually, sister, you can't handle what you produce. And if you watch how smart your boys are before they go to school, then by the time they're 7, you see them, instead of picking up, you see them slowing down. Do you know why? How many of you have ever read the autobiography of Malcolm X? Do you remember when Malcolm was in the 8th grade and Malcolm wanted to be a lawyer? Do you remember what the teacher said to Malcolm? She said, "Oh, Malcolm, my people would never hire you, and your people don't trust your ability as a lawyer, but you would make a wonderful carpenter." Now that was in Lansing, Michigan. I grew up right here in Boston. In the 6th grade, I was 10 years old. I had a lovely Irish teacher. And she said, "Louis, what would you like to become when you grow up?" And I said, "I would want to become a doctor." She said, "Oh, Louis, your own people would never come to you, and mine won't either, but you play the violin beautifully." In other words, from Lansing, Michigan to Boston, Massachusetts, that's not an accident. The idea is, when young black men aspire to disciplines that might cause them to challenge white supremacy, redirect them into non-threatening professions. Tell them how good they play basketball. Tell them how fast they run. Tell them how nice they sing. But redirect their talents so that they will never threaten the next generation of white children who are to rule them. Are you listening? So when we send our children into these killing fields, we have to monitor them. And Reverend, we got to open the churches so that there's an after-school school. Or there's a Saturday morning school that's not like Sunday school. A Saturday morning school that imbues in black children the history, the knowledge, and the love of themselves. Now there is a plan of destruction. That didn't just happen in Pharaoh's time. That happened in Jesus' time. Kill the boys to get to Jesus. And look at your sons. Look at your sons. Many of these, That didn't just happen in Pharaoh's time. That happened in Jesus' time. Kill the boys to get to Jesus. And look at your sons. Look at your sons. Many of these mothers are burying their young men, going to the graves, crying over the coffin of their children shot to death in gang warfare, drive-by shootings, or accidental deaths through gang violence, and the bullets go astray. I grew up in this city. There were gangs in Boston when I was growing up. The gangs fought each other. Sometimes they would cut one another, but they never killed each other. Very rarely did any of us die through the fights that those of us who lived in town would have with those who lived on the hill. And up here was called the Hill, Humboldt Avenue, where the bourgeois black folk lived. But those of us who lived down in Roxbury on Charlotte Avenue and Ruggles Street and Hammond Street and Tremont Street and Columbus Avenue, see, we was poor. And so when we came up on the hill to a dance at St. Mark's Community Center, they would run us back. Or we would come up to the Catholic church where they had the dances on Warren Street, and we would get into fights. And God knows if we went to Cambridge, we'd be fighting all the way across the bridge. These little turf wars were common when I was coming up, and that was a long time ago. Well, you know, kind of long. But today, somebody's bringing guns in the community. And along with the guns, they're bringing the drugs. And most of us as family members got somebody in our family that is a crack addict. And once they take the crack, it gets a grip. And when crack gets a hold to you, you don't even recognize your child anymore. This is a destructive pattern. You remember how the police would kill our young men and then put a knife by the body and say, he had a shiny object. I thought it was a knife, so I shot him. Or they kill your children and put a gun there. Well, now they ain't got to put a gun. You're all set up now for destruction. Our own politicians are saying that the crime in the inner cities is so great, we need to call in the National Guard. Now, before long, if we don't turn this around, you'll see the tanks rolling in the streets of Roxbury and Dorchester. They're putting out movies that show us in our complete savagery, and they're sending it all the way around the globe. You went to the movie and saw Boys in the Hood. You went to the movie and saw Menace to Society. You saw your young black brother shoot a Korean down in the store and then show the movie and say, didn't I smoke her? You listening to this wild, crazy, vile, filthy expression on television? They're sending us all over the world. You listening and seeing black girls with these strings in their backside, shaking and grinding their backside in the television, the 2 Live crew. You see our women calling themselves bitches with problems, or whores with attitudes, or vice versa. 30 years ago, female groups were the Supremes. Patti LaBelle and the LaBelles. But look how we've degenerated to bitches with problems and whores with attitudes. Men just run out of their mouth calling women bitches. And you call one another names like that. God didn't make any female bitches. God made man and woman in his image. And anytime you degrade yourself by calling yourself out of your name or allowing any man to call you that, you should walk away from any man that calls you out of your name. And so, sisters, we're primed for destruction, and we got to turn it around. Nobody is going to do it for us. We're going to have to do it for ourselves. Do you realize that this is historic? There has never been a so-called black leader that has called black men out to talk to men about their responsibility as men. And there never has been a black leader to call women out, to talk to women about their sacred role. And so as I bring this talk to a conclusion, I don't want one of you to move. I want to talk now about solutions since we talked about problems. First, sisters, you got to know that you are really sisters of each other. In the deepest sense of the word sister, you are that. The Holy Quran says, "O people, keep your duty to your Lord, who created you from a single essence and created its mate of the same essence. And from these two, he spread many men and women." The single essence from which he created man is himself. And the single essence from which he created woman is himself. So when we look at each other, you are my sister, and I am your brother. Even though your mother didn't produce me and mine didn't produce you, our root go all the way back to God himself. So when I call you sister, I don't mean it in no light sense. You are my sister in God, and I am your brother in God. Now all your children are my nieces and my nephews. And so when daddy ain't around, uncles should step in. The moment you understand who you are to one another and try to become that, then you produce a circle out of which your children cannot escape. When I was coming up, my mother wasn't the only woman that reared me. When I got out of sight and started, doing my thing, one of the neighbors would look out the window and say, "Jean, is that you? Cussing like that? Your mother teach you better than that?" And you can't be disrespectful. You there with your boys, but now you caught. "Come here, boy." And then she smacked me upside my head. "I'm gonna tell your mother." And before I could get home, my mother had the news. And my backside was in the oven twice. That's how you protect your family. We are one family. We ain't your family and some other family. We are all one family. But we have become so divided till my children aren't yours and yours aren't mine. But yours are mine and mine are yours. So when you see mine out of order, check them. And when I see yours out of order, I check them. So that when we start checking and with decency and respect, then before you know it, the children try to vip, but they can't vop, and they can't vip. They got to get straight. Too many eyes watching them. Don't you want to be sisters like that again? But you can't be a sister to your sister if you're trying to get your sister's husband. Did I say something wrong? I know the song, "If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right." But sisters, you got to love for your sister what you love for yourself. You must not break up the home of your sister because the man that you got is capable of being everything that the man that you see across the street is to you. And he only look good because you ain't living with him. Haven't you learned that yet? All of us as men are defective. Every one of us. So ain't no use in running out of the fire or the frying pan into the fire because something looked good across the street. Take what you got in your house and develop it. Now I'm going to tell you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me how to be a man and gave me the knowledge of how to be a man. I want to impart this knowledge to all our black men. And because I went to the Strand Theater and talked to men, they are suing me now, bringing me to court for discrimination. I can't do good for the evildoer trying to use law to create mischief. White folk, you know the black man is in bad shape. And if I come to your city to talk to the black men that are creating the crime problem in the community, why are you going to oppose me as though I'm doing something evil? Some of you don't even understand that the nature of the two, though complementary, is different. You don't teach a woman like you teach a man. And you don't teach a man like you teach a woman. There are certain things that you need to be to yourself to be taught. And there's certain things that a man needs to be to himself to be taught. But when we throw each other together in a pot, like we are all the same, no, we're not the same. America has gone to hell because she doesn't understand. Her leaders are backward. And so she needs guidance today. And if you follow the guidance that come out of Washington, you go into hell on a rocket ship. One of the things that a man must do to be a man, he must study. He must read. He must cultivate his mind. Take his mind up off the level of the lower animals. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And if the man who is the head of his house has no vision, then the house is gone to hell. Whether the man is capable of being the head of his house or not, God recognizes man as the head of his house. The scripture said Christ the head of man, man the head of woman. But these two work together to form a family. Somebody got to have the last word. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the last word in the house should be truth. Hello. But sometimes our ego won't let us see the truth. So a wise woman got to know how to handle a man that's in authority but don't know how to handle it. My wife knew how to handle a fool till he could become wise. My little ego, I want to be the boss, but I didn't have the stuff. She knew it, but she was cool. She didn't say, "You too stupid to tell me what to do, you big dummy." When I would woof, 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 and sometimes the brother will do that. He liked to hear himself roar like a lion, you know what I mean? So when I roared, she didn't roar back. Roar. No. When I roared, she got quiet. She knew she could roar. But she got to build this roar into a roar with intelligence. So she cooled it. Then when I calmed down, she said, "Now you know, such and so is the case. You know, baby, that's right." She preserved my little ego, but she sure got her point across. Now, sisters, That's your husband. That's your man. You don't want to beat him down. You want to build him up. Because after you tear him down, what you going to do with him? You got to get rid of him. Because he ain't no good to you no more. Well, you say he ain't no good to me anyway. Build him up. Help him up. When you know he wants to work, but white folks won't hire him, look into him and see what his gifts are, and encourage him to do something to help himself. And instead of giving him money to make him dependent, say, honey, why not let's go into business? You just got to be wise. You are wise. You know you are. Then stop acting foolish. Now, sisters, you really need to learn the fine art of making a home. I don't care what you know in the professional world. It's all coming from the home. The home is not your place, it's your base. And if your base ain't right, you'll never find your place. You got to learn how to make a home so that the man won't be running in the street. He'll be breaking his neck to get home. He'll be like Dorothy in the Wiz. Every day at 4 or 5, he'll click his heels 3 times. And he won't be looking for Toto, he'll be looking to come home. Make his home nice. That's where you live. Don't keep no nasty place. All confused. Dishes piled up in the sink from last Christmas. Clothes everywhere, his and yours. Sink nasty, tub nasty, floor nasty, baby nasty. Take off the Huggies and the Pamper, put it down over here. Another one over there, another one here. And when your husband come home, you come to the door looking like the wreck of the Hesperus. Hair going every which way. Drool from last night coming down the side of your face. That man said, hell, I'm out of here. Even if it's a room, we got to keep it clean. Because cleanliness is not next to godliness. Cleanliness is godliness. Do you know, sisters, that a clean environment is preventive medicine against disease? That's why Jesus said, wash and be clean. He's not talking just about the outside. He's talking about the inside. Your children are growing up. Give them a clean environment. Even though we're poor, we don't have to be dirty. Am I saying something wrong? Come on. Sisters. Sisters. Sisters, listen. My mother was very, very, very poor, but she was very talented. I don't know the time that my house that I grew up in was dirty. I never saw dishes piled in the sink. I didn't have a father. It was just my mother raising me and my brother. We were on welfare, but my mother was not a slave to welfare. She was not going to sit down and wait on a check every day listening to Our Gal Sunday and Helen Trent. That's a long time ago. My mother, I never saw my mother in the bed when it was time for me to get up. She was already up. I never had to look for a pair of underwear to put on. My drawer was always filled with clean underwear, clean socks, clean shirt, clean bed to lay down on at night. And I never had to get somewhere else to get food. When I awakened, Mom was already awake. Cold flat, but she took my underwear and put them on the stove, on the oil stove, to get them warm so I wouldn't put cold clothes on my body. Bring me out into the kitchen and sit me down to a meal before I went to school. And then at noontime, I came home for lunch. My mother was always there. I have never seen no man in my mother's bed. I have never seen no man in my mother's house except he was dignified. You listening? That woman was something. She put that violin in my hand and a stick in another hand. She said, boy, practice. Put the clock beside me. You got children? Have a plan for what you want your children to become. Don't say, well, I'll let them decide. Children can't decide. How are you going to make a shoe and then decide, well, it's supposed to go on the foot? You already know that in advance. That's why you made a shoe. You don't make a baby and don't have an idea or thought in mind for your children. What does our nation need? Do we need doctors? Do we need chemists? Do we need architects? Do we need engineers? Then when you know what your people need, then send them in that direction. And even if they don't go, they will be so disciplined that when they discover what they want to do, they'll take the discipline that you already put in them and go on down the road. To the sisters that's in the overflow room, when I finally give the greetings and we say prayer, I will come next door, wherever you are, to see you, so don't leave. I just want to see you and greet you. Can we hang a couple more minutes? Just about 10 more. What was I talking about? Discipline. Did you know that my mother made me play that violin? And I didn't like that violin. Because it was, to me, a sissy instrument. And I didn't want to look like no sissy. So I'd be sneaking through the alleys to get to my lessons. But when I got to be 11, 12, and I began to play it with a certain degree of comfort and mastery, and heard the applause of the people, I fell in love with the instrument. And I began practicing 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, then practice 10 hours. When I was in show business in this city, I was dedicated to my art form. I never did anything that was not excellent because I practiced to become excellent. So, when I became a Muslim and put my music down, that same discipline, I applied it to my study of the Bible, my study of the Quran. And these children of mine could see me every morning. When they got up, they would see me studying my Bible, studying my Quran. Sometimes 8 hours a day, I would be in the library downtown on Copley Square studying 6 and 7 and 8 hours. Today, I don't need notes. I stand up and speak no matter where I go, and it makes sense. I don't have to repeat myself. I could go on talking for a day, a week, a month, a year. Because I have it now in me. Because my mother gave me that basic discipline. So sisters, go home and look at your precious children and say, what gifts do they have, and where do I want them to go? What do I want them to do? What service do I want them to render to a falling people? And then send them in that direction. Get the kind of toys and books that lead them in that direction. Turn the television off and start helping them to see. Sisters, and until you find a good man, don't throw yourself away with any man. Get a hold to yourself. You are too precious to give yourself to some man who does not honor and respect your value as a woman. Hold on to yourself. When you go downtown to shop for clothes, check out what they're putting on you and what their purpose is as a designer. Some of you in here know how to design. Go on and design some clothes for black women that dress them in their regal nature. Make them beautiful but a queen. Watch these garments that have points. They may call them ponchos, they call them some of everything. But check out the points, front and back. Because always the point is leading toward the crotch area. So the man who sees you walking, he starts up here, but he gets to the point. and he don't get off the point. Don't dress to tempt men. Dress to be your best and cause men to think above the low level of a dog. I hope you will get the tape of this lecture. Share it with your preachers. Help the preacher to see that he's got more responsibility than just entertain. Church should be more than hooping. Church should be more than choir singing. Church must be the spiritual education, cultivation, and nurturing of the community. That's what it has to be. Otherwise, it has no value. Remember this, mothers. This is the best generation we have ever produced. They're strong, they're fearless, they're bold and courageous. But they don't listen to you if you're talking the same old foolishness that somebody told you. They're pulling away from you because God wants to make a new people. And he can't make a new people if you keep putting the old teaching in their heads. So they're rejecting it. So you've got to study, old and young, to become wise to this time and what the requirements of this time is. All of you have to fit your minds out better so you can educate your children. They won't turn away from you if you put the right stuff in their heads. There must be a God-centered education. So as the women of God come back to God, as I leave you, I would like to tell you a story about my precious mother that I hope will be learning for you. My mother loved my father. He was a very handsome man from the island of Jamaica. My mother was a very beautiful black woman. My father was a very handsome, light-skinned man. And you know, in those days, when a man is light-skinned with curly or near straight hair, like Cab Calloway, women go crazy over those kind of men. So my father had a lot of women, but he married my mother. My mother was a strong black woman who didn't like my father's foolishness. She loved him. She didn't like his foolishness. So she put him out. But she loved him. She met another man, and she took up with that man. She never divorced my father. He was out of the picture, and my brother was born from that relationship. But when my brother was about 9 months old, my father came back in the picture. Since my mother really loved him, she didn't resist him. This was her husband. She was not divorced from him, but she wasn't living with him. And during that time, she became pregnant with me. She was in trouble because he was still going to be a womanizer, so she couldn't really stay with him. She was with a man that she really liked, but now she's pregnant with me. Any resemblance to any persons living or dead is not a coincidence. Now, sisters, my poor mother saw me as an obstruction to her happiness. So in those days, they didn't have abortion clinics. So with a hanger, she tried to abort me. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And since she tried 3 times and failed, she decided to have me. You say, well, why are you telling this? I'm telling it to free you and to teach you something that you really need to know. Sisters, look. My mother, when she decided to have me, she knew she was in trouble. But she hoped that I would be a girl, because the man she was living with wanted a girl. And she hoped I would come out dark because he was dark. And maybe, just maybe, he might have been able to think that it was his. But she got scared. And the more she got scared, the more she prayed. See, and when you're pregnant, whatever the circumstances are that surround the pregnancy, help to shape what's in your womb. It was a strange circumstance, and Mama was so insecure, she had to pray. And pray all the time, because she didn't know what the future was going to bring. She knew she was in trouble, but every time she prayed, her prayers went down into me. And even though she was insecure, she knew that her hiding place, her refuge, was God. So she kept on praying, and at the 9th month, I came. No girl, and very light, with hair almost blonde light. She couldn't tell the man that that was his for sure. So she had to fess up. Well, my husband came back. Well, naturally, the man was tore down. So she took my brother and me and left and came to Boston, where we grew up. She never made my brother and me to see that we were from different fathers. She gave both of us the same name. I never wore the name of my own father. I wore the name of my brother's father. She never talked to me about my father, but I always had a longing to know him. So as I grew, I could feel God's presence with me from a little boy. Listen, brothers and sisters. My mother made me from the womb to seek refuge in God. And as I began to grow, my mother began to see something different in her son. This sister that is now my wife, we've been married going on 41 years. But I've known her since she was 8 years of age. I wanted to marry my wife, who had become pregnant with my first child. My mother did not want that, but something was so strong in me. She didn't know she put it there. I told her, Mother, I don't need anybody but God. I'm going to marry Betsy. She said, well, you're too young. I ain't going to sign for you. I said, you don't have to sign for me, Mother. I'll go to a state where I don't need your signature. I knew I was making the right decision. When my mother said, I wanted to give you a big wedding, I said, I don't need a big wedding. I've never wanted to be surrounded by hypocrites. I said, I don't need nobody but that girl, me and God. She don't know she made me like that. But it was the strange circumstances of her life that made me for you. I'm standing here talking to women tonight because I know more about you than you know about yourself. I have been made by my mother appealing to women, but appealing to men. Just look at it. You don't know what you're making in your wombs. Don't destroy the fruit of your womb because of some strange circumstance. Because when you destroy the fruit of your womb, sisters, you're destroying the answer to your own prayers. My mother didn't pray that black people would get a deliverer, but black people prayed. And here I am, an answer to your own prayers. You don't know it, but you called me into existence. That's why I can't get away from you. And that's why you can't get away from me. You can run, but you can't hide. You come here tonight, some of you, I just want to hear what he got to say. Some of you with a negative mind, but look at you now. You know that I'm your brother, and you know that I couldn't talk like this unless God had put love in me for you. My mother made me like that. I would challenge my teachers in school. I had a vicious temper, but I hated a liar. And when they lied on me, I challenged them. And my mother saw that spirit in me. And she never tried to break it because I don't really think she could. She made it too well. Are you listening? I'm not trying to make something of myself. But what God made of me through the circumstances surrounding her pregnancy. When my mother was on her deathbed, maybe 10 days before she died, I was on my way to the mosque to teach, and I went into her room, and as she laid in her bed, she cradled her stomach, and she said, I thank God that He did not allow me to do what I intended. I thank Him for what He brought from my womb. Sisters, Your children don't have to be grapes of wrath. You can make your children great men and women, but you got to come home to God. You got to be sincere in your prayers, and no matter what the circumstance is, rely on God, trust in God, go to God. When man lets you down, God will never let you down. Stay with God. Now, sisters, when I learned the truth, when I heard Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X, I didn't want to get out of the church. I didn't want to change my religion. I wanted to see black people free, but my church wasn't talking freedom. My church was talking about heaven. After I was dead, I want to know about heaven while I live. So when I heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I heard the man that my soul had been looking for all my life. And when I accepted this teaching, I put my music down because I understood now that my music was to sensitize me. When you're a musician, you become sensitive to people's pain and hurt and suffering. This is why, as I stand here before you tonight, not knowing your heart or your problems, some of you think I'm talking directly to you, and I really am. But it's not that I know your problem, but God knows it, and He uses me as an instrument to talk to you. Are you listening to me? Now you see there hasn't been no black man in the history of America more evil spoken of by white America, by the press, than Louis Farrakhan. Well, the way they talk about me, I should be so afraid to be seen in the public. I should be running and hiding and ducking and dodging. But look at what Mama made. Mama sought refuge in God, and she put God in me in the womb. So I don't take refuge in the public. All the accolades and the applause, that don't move me. I know where the praise belongs. It belongs wholly and solely to God. All honor belongs to God. I ain't looking for that. But what I'm looking for is to see a change in the life of our people, that we may be made better men and better women, better servants of God, that we may turn our situation around and become masters of our own destiny. And so when they try to break me down, the stronger I get, because my refuge is in God. I'm not something that white folk made. I'm something that God made. But He made me through the womb of my mother. And I'm saying to all of you, your womb is sacred. The Holy Quran says, reverence the womb that bore you. Go home to your mother and show her the deepest honor and the deepest respect. Because none of you are raised up to judge your mothers, because your mothers are the victims of the same world that victimize your fathers, your uncles, your brothers. So don't judge them lest you be judged yourself. But thank God for that womb that bore you and allowed you to come forth to behold the majesty of God's creation. that even though the circumstances of your life may not have been so good, yet you with God and truth can turn it all around. You don't have to cry no more. You don't have to weep no more. You don't have to wail no more. You just have to get up and know that God is with you. And so, beloved, if you are pregnant tonight and you're thinking about getting rid of it, I beg you, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what you got to face tomorrow, have your baby. And I can promise you tonight, if you have that baby, oh, what a baby it's going to be. Boy or girl, it's going to be a giant, because tonight, through me, God is touching your womb. And if I never am blessed to see you again, when that child starts doing the wonderful things that it has come in this world to do, remember tonight, and I know you will, go home and take your children and look at them real good and make up your mind that God brought them here through me. I'm going to make something out of each one of them with God's help. And so I thank Sister Shirley Muhammad and the MGT and GCC of Boston for inviting me here. Have you noticed how cool it got? Wasn't as bad as when it started. It's wisdom that just cooled things off. So after we have prayer, I would love each one of you just to embrace your sister. And know that when you leave here, that's your sister. Would you stand, please? Wait. We're going to have prayer first. How many of you believe that what you heard taught tonight is true and good for us as a people? What I'd like to ask you to do before we have prayer, there's a pledge that I want you, if you would say it. When I say I, you say I, and then I'll say your name, and you just say what your name is. And then recite these words. I say your name, pledge from this day forward to strive to love my brothers and sisters as I love myself. I say your name, pledge from this day forward to strive to study to improve myself spiritually, mentally, morally, physically, and economically, for the benefit of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name, pledge to strive to build schools, hospitals, housing, business, buy farmland, and enter into international trade and commerce for the good of myself, my family, and my people. I, your name, pledge to give of myself, my time, my talent, my energy, and whatever I can spare of my finance to accomplish the above said. I say your name, pledge that from this day forward I will never use my tongue to slander my sister or my brother, to falsely accuse my sister or brother. I will never use my hands or any weapon to harm my sister or my brother except in self-defense. Do you agree with that? Now, brothers and sisters, yes, while you're standing, a year from now, we are organizing the largest march on Washington in the history of America. But the difference is that we are asking our sisters if you would be so kind as to stay home, since you have been our leaders, you have been our teachers, you have forged the way for us. Now we are saying we believe it's time for the black man to stand up. So next year, we intend to take 1 million black men to Washington, D.C. to demand on your behalf and on behalf of our dead parents what America owes to us. And what we want you to do in sympathy with us is when you're home that day, we don't want you to look at foolishness. Gather your children. Tell them what their husbands, their fathers, their brothers, their men are doing. We stay away from the bars that day. We don't buy no liquor that day. We don't send our children to school that day. And we take that day off and we want 40 million black people to shut America down for one day. Listen, we don't need guns. All we need is our unity. And we can show the world that we are not the shines, the ham bones, the coons, and the niggers that they made. But we are the men and the women of God who have decided to stand up You say it, stand up for Jesus. You soldiers of the cross. What do you mean, stand up? Stand up for justice. Stand up for righteousness. Become a soldier and be willing to take some cross. And the cross that day is you lose 1 day pay. And if they threaten to fire you, we'll come down on the job. We're not going to let them penalize us for showing sympathy for our own people and our own ancestors who died all over the world for a justice that we don't have yet. I am so happy to be in your company. And I thank you from the depth of my heart for receiving me and for receiving the word that God blessed me to bring tonight. I guess that's it. So with your heads bowed, would you please follow me silently in our closing prayer? O Allah, we beseech your help and ask your mercy. For we believe in you and trust in you for all that we need. And we desire to be helpers in your cause, to give freedom, justice, and equality to your people. Grant to us success. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone do we worship, thine aid we seek. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray after they have heard your teachings. O Allah, we thank you for this night. We thank you for each and every person that is present. We pray that your words will touch the hearts of those who listen, that we may go out from this place back to our homes and make our homes a place for you to come. Make our families strong again. Even if there's no man there, you come and be there. And we pray that we will go from this place with a bond of love and unity for our Black and Hispanic, Native American brothers and sisters, that women, Black and white, all over this world may recognize that they are the balance for the man. And where women are not present, there is no balance for the power that you have given to men. So men have become the destroyers of the children and the destroyers of our world. Open the hearts of women that they may see that their place is not the home, but the base is the home, and cultivate our women in every field of righteous endeavor, that we may stand beside our men and walk with them and build the kingdom of God on earth. We ask all of this in your holy and righteous name. For I bear witness there is no God but you, and I bear witness to Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, that they are your true and righteous servants. Amen. Now, sisters, would you kindly embrace your sisters, and until I see you again, may Allah bless you all.